Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop and welcome to part 3 of the Bowlback Mandolin Neck Reset. Okay, so in the first episode, those of you who saw it, I made this piece of apparatus to help me remove the neck from the mandolin to do the reset. And in the second episode, I used this piece of kit and removed the neck really quickly. So I think it's fair to say that this piece of kit that I made is a success, and it cost me very, very little to make it because I already had some of the components here already. All I had to buy was the kettle, which was a couple of dollars or pounds. So it's cost me very, very little to make this piece of equipment, and it's worth its weight in gold, honestly. You know, if you saw the second episode and saw how quickly and easily I removed the neck from this mandolin, you'll agree, I'm sure, that you know that piece of kit has really served its purpose well. So yeah, so in the second episode, I removed the neck from the body, nice and easy, nice and clean. I say clean, I had to remove all of the glue from the neck, dovetail, and also in the body of the mandolin as well. But I had to wait for the wood to completely dry. You know, using this piece of kit to remove the neck obviously made all of the wood very damp, and if I tried to remove the glue at that point, I would have just, you know, ripped off chunks of wood as well. So I left it for a couple of days, I think, before actually removing the glue, and I took some time. I didn't film removing the glue because it's really not exciting, but I really took my time, and I've also got some lighting in here now, using one of my studio lights. So I've removed all of the glue from the base here, from all the way around here and here, and on the bottom part of the neck itself. And it's cleaned up really nicely. I've removed all of the glue, I think. It's kind of hard to tell because I don't know if you can see that, but the wood itself is kind of, you know, different colours. But I'm pretty sure I've got all of the glue off from around there, and that was the easier part. This was a bit more tricky to get in here, but I've managed to do the same in there. Got all the glue cleaned up nicely, and like I said, I really took my time to make sure I got every last bit of glue out. And after I'd done that, the neck now fits into the pocket fairly loosely actually, and it does kind of wiggle back and forth there, which is good because I need to try and, you know, get it to set back a little bit. But thankfully, once it's actually in the joint, it doesn't move sideways. Actually, it does a tiny amount, but that's just because I've now scraped off all of the glue. You know, this is reasonably loose in the joint, so it does wiggle backwards and forwards, which is what I want. A tiny little bit side to side, but that's not going to be enough to put it out of alignment. It's only a tiny amount. And you can probably see now that there's a little bit of sort of gappage around the joint. You know, when I put the glue in, that's going to fill that in basically. So now that I've got all the glue cleaned up, it is time to reset the neck. So what I've got set up on the bench here is, let me just come down a bit. I've got sort of some blocks set up here. I kind of, you know, did a dry run of this off camera so that I can prop the body up on this block here. So we got a block there, so I can prop the body on that block there, and then use this neck block for the neck. Because because of the shape of this, and it's all shiny and everything, it's kind of hard to keep everything still. So I just kind of set this up so that when I put the neck in, it can kind of rest like this to set up. Because although the joint at the moment is reasonably loose, once I put the glue in, that's gonna pack all that up. And because it's such oops, because it's such a good joint, it's very nicely cut. I won't need to clamp this when I glue it in place, which is just as well, because these things are virtually impossible to clamp. You've got no flat surface there. Normally you'd have like a guitar or ukulele, the back of the body would be flat there and you can clamp it straight across there. But like I said, with these it's virtually impossible to clamp it. But like I said, I won't need to. Once I've got the glue in place and I set it up on this couple of blocks, it will be where I need it to be, and the joint itself will be tight enough that it doesn't need clamping. It will just set itself. I hope anyway. It should do. So as I said, right now I'm at the point of actually gluing this and setting it back in, setting the neck back into the body. Let's just move the camera a little bit. Okay, I think that's good. Right, so what I normally do with any kind of glue joint, as regular viewers of mine will know, is I use just a small amount of glue, a thin layer, but make sure that it's 100% covered. Now with this one I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm going to put a fair bit more glue in than usual, because I want the glue to kind of act as not a clamp as such, but keeping everything set in place. So I'm going to put a fair bit of extra glue in this joint, more so than I normally do, to make sure it's fully packed with glue, and once it's set, it should be set. So obviously doing that, there's going to be a lot of glue squeeze out all over the place. So what I'm going to do before I do that, around the bottom of the neck here on the outside, and also around this back part of the body, I'm just going to smear a little bit of wax polish on there, just to make sure I can remove the excess glue, the glue squeeze out, without leaving a big old mess. So I'm just gonna use my finger and just smear a little bit of this cheapo wax polish onto the back of the neck and the back of the body, where the glue is going to squeeze out, so it'll help me to clean things up a bit. So I'm just gonna, I mean this is the stuff I use for wood polishing anyway, so it's fine to use for this. So I want to make sure I don't get any on the gluing surface, just around the edge where it is going to squeeze out. So a little bit on the neck there, and same again around the body here. And again, making sure, being careful not to put any glue, any wax on the gluing surface, just around the edge where it's all going to squeeze out. Which, like I said, will make it easier to clean up the glue squeeze out. Right, so that should be plenty on there. Let me just get that out of the way. And coffee. Right, so I've got some brushes in a cup of water here. Let me just select a brush I'm going to use. I think probably this one. Let's see. Yeah, that one's no good, that one's no good. That one's no good. No, I'm going to use this one because it's got kind of a wider bristle tip on it, if you like. It's a little bit bleh at the moment, but that's fine for, just for gluing, I mean for painting that's no good anymore, but for gluing is absolutely fine. So I'm going to use, this is not Titebond Original, this is Titebond 2, which is non-water soluble and therefore a little bit stronger. Because I'm hoping this is the last time I'm going to be doing this joint, so I want it to be nice and strong. So I'm going to use this Titebond 2, which is the blue colour. Right, so I'm going to start with the, am I going to start with the neck? Yeah. So I'm just going to put, like I said, a liberal amount of glue all over the dovetail joint of the neck. So I'm just going to squeeze it onto the base part there. It's a bit clogged up actually. That should be fine. So like I said, I'm putting a liberal amount of glue all over this joint. I want to make sure this joint is really strong. I'm going to need a little bit more. Can you see what I'm doing? I think you can, kind of. Right, so let's just spread that out a bit. Again, I still want 100% coverage. I just want a bit more glue than I would normally use. Okay, let's go a little drop more. Okay, that should be good. So I'll just put that to one side. I'll kind of try and stand it up so the glue doesn't dribble out too much. Okay, so the same in the dovetail joint of the body itself. A decent amount of glue in there. Spread it around. And on this top surface as well. Yeah, I've got a lot of glue in there. That's fine. That's exactly what I want. I want to basically pack this joint with glue. You shouldn't really use glue, especially wood glue, as a filler as such, but you know, I just want to make sure the joint is packed with glue. I want a lot of squeeze out. I want to see that, you know, it's making good contact. Right, I think we're good there. So let me just give that brush a quick wipe and then put it back in the water. Right, okay, so neck now going in. And like I said, I want to see a lot of squeeze out, and there's not as much as I would like, so I'm going to put a little bit more glue on that part of the neck there, where I didn't get so much squeeze out. Just use my finger to spread it out this time. Okay. Right, so let's get that neck in the joint. There we go, that's what I want to see. Lots of glue squeezing out all the way around. Okay, so let's just clean up the excess as best I can. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing there. Alright, let me get a clean bit of tissue to clean the back part of the joint. There we go. So let's just get off all that excess glue. Right, so I'll get the glue out of the way. So I'm now going to set it up on this block setup I've got, and kind of get everything in alignment where I want it to be. I'm going to use my straight edge just to see if I've got the right angle on that before I leave it alone. And it's probably about right. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more glue in that joint where we've got a couple of gaps. I'm not too worried about this surface having, you know, glue still all over it, because I can scrape it off afterwards if necessary. Right, so and clean up the excess as best I can. It's getting a bit of a mess, this. So I've got a little bit of time before this glue dries to, you know, to get everything lined up where I want it. So I'm not too worried about rushing it. No need to do that. Okay. Right. So I want to make sure it's properly in the joint and make sure it's at the angle that I want it. Yeah, it's really awkward to work with these things. They just move about all over the place. It's probably back a little bit more than I would like. Well, no, maybe it's all right. I'll try and get off the glue squeeze out without moving it around too much. I think we're good there. So that's looking more or less where I want it. Yeah. So I've got a tiny little angle back. So putting the straight edge from the body all the way up the neck. I'll just check that again. Yeah, I've got a tiny amount of angle back. So at this, excuse me, at this end where the nut would be, probably a couple of millimeters of clearance. Yeah, that looks about right to me. So that's basically it for this video. Yeah, it was just, you know, gluing the neck back in and getting it set up so that the glue will set and the neck is exactly where I want it to be. Sorry, just clean this up. And yeah, I mean that is basically it. So I'm going to leave that to set probably at least a couple of days, to be honest. Before I glue the fretboard back on, because I want to make sure it's set nice and solid and, you know, at the angle that I want, before I start fiddling about trying to put the fretboard back on in case, you know, it all moves. So I'm going to leave that a minimum 24 hours, probably more like 2, maybe even 3 days, to really set up hard and strong before I do anything else. But you know, this is obviously the most crucial part of the job, because you know, this is the neck reset, and if I don't get it right at this stage, I've basically got to do it again, and I don't really want to do that. So that is basically all there is to it for this episode. Just basically gluing the neck back in, and once that's been set for a couple of days, I will then attach the fretboard and leave that for, well, that doesn't need to be left so long because that's nothing to do with the neck angle, that's just attaching the fretboard. So, but I'll leave that a few hours before I put the thing together. But when I do put it all back together, put the tuners in, put the strings back on, the bridge, the nut, I am not going to put the strings up to tension at first. I'm going to leave it several days, possibly even a week, just to make sure that everything is dry and set and exactly where it's going to be, and I'm happy with it before I put any tension on it. So, you know, in total it's probably going to be 10 days of glue drying time before I get those strings up to tension, because I don't want this happening again. It's a pain. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I probably will record the next part, which is attaching the fretboard, but that's going to be quite a short video again, just like this one, where, you know, once that's done I have to leave the glue to dry before I can do anything else. But this, you know, although this is quite a major job, doing a neck reset on any instrument, provided you've got everything you need, which I do, it's pretty quick and straightforward, really. You know, there's not really that much to it. You do have to know what you're doing, obviously, and I've done these neck resets quite a few times on various instruments. And like I said, there isn't really that much to it. You just want to make sure alignment is right, and where necessary and possible, good clamping, and again checking the angle before you leave it. Yeah, so there's not really a lot to the job as such. It's just, you know, this is the most critical part. If it's not in alignment now, before the glue dries, tough. Or do it again. Okay, so end of part 3. As I said, the next episode will be reattaching the fretboard. That should go relatively straightforward. There's not really much to that. But that I will need to clamp. And I've had a thought about how I'm going to do it to get even pressure and make sure the thing stays straight as well. So that will be coming in the next episode. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.